Welcome to Marketplace Tech Bytes, our weekly review of the biggest stories making headlines across the industry. I'm your host, Lily Jamali. This week on the show, AI whistleblowers warn of a culture of recklessness. Meta plans to bring young adults back to Facebook, and the meme stock frenzy faces fresh scrutiny. Joining me to discuss all of that this week is Natasha Mascarenhas. She's a reporter at The Information. Hey, Natasha, welcome back.
Hey, so great to be here. How's it going?
Pretty well. Things are good here. Let's start, as we always do, with our bite of the week. What have you been looking at this week?
I have a bigger bite than usual, so it might just be hungry this morning, but I have chosen 12,000, which represents the number of chips or GPUs that Elon Musk redirected from one of his companies, Tesla, to another company, X, formerly known as Twitter. It shows really how Silicon Valley is thinking about one of its most coveted resources, but also how Elon's different universe all kind of overlaps at times.
Yes, under some scrutiny can we call it insider dealing? How should we analyze this?
It sounds like Elon being Elon. I think people are definitely aware he's a part-time CEO and he has some history in reallocating sources between companies. Very, well known that when he took over X, he brought a ton of Tesla engineers with him. So some surprises, but of course, having numbers plus adding in the GPU constraints across the industry, this is definitely getting some attention. And I think Tesla stock dipped a little bit right after the story came out.
Right. And I know you've been tracking the GPU shortage very closely this last year. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah,
Minus 13, that is the number of current and former employees from AI companies, OpenAI, Google, DeepMind, and Anthropic, who signed a letter released this week. They warn of the risks posed by the technology being developed at these companies. Natasha, walk us through the risks that are being flagged here.
Totally. There's always been this really essential question about AI and how it's going to create safety risks going forward. Is AI going to take our jobs? Is one version of the question, but the other question is can it exacerbate inequalities? Can it increase manipulation? Right now we're training the AIs, but at one point will the AI sort of be at this new level where it's able to act on its own and thus do evil on its own? And so in that open letter, they really called on companies to do more to ensure transparency, really bring public debate on. And of course, it does feel like a response to some of the safety departures we've seen from OpenAI recently.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, how is the message from these whistleblowers being received? And I'll mention that Vox had some recent reporting on OpenAI, maker of ChatGPT, revealing that the company threatened to claw back employers' equity unless they signed these non-disparage agreements. So these employees are putting themselves on the line here, right?
Yeah, to be fair, after that Vox reporting went out, which was amazing, impactful reporting, OpenAI walked back its policy. We saw CEO Sam Altman, who's had, quite a tough month, tweet out publicly saying that, he was, to paraphrase, surprised, ashamed that this had been a policy. Vox obviously followed up, showing some receipts, but the impact of the reporting was that OpenAI sent a letter out to employees, including former employees, which I saw, that said that they would no longer enforce the disparagement clause, and you wouldn't lose your equity if you spoke up. So that was one step forward. The broader conversations in the AI research community are actually somewhat muted. My colleague, Stephanie Palazzolo, who writes an amazing daily newsletter, AI Agenda, spoke to a ton of researchers. And part of it was, part of the reaction was that there's some vagueness in the claims in the open letter. For example, how do we go from chatbots to an AI that ends humanity?
Right.
And of course, research can be exponential. So there is this push and pull. And of course, the number of people that have signed it right now have also kind of given people who don't see value in the letter another talking point. 13 people out of hundreds, if not thousands of employees. We still need more.
Right. These are 13 people. All but 2 of them, by the way, we should mention, are current or former employees of OpenAI. Half of them were anonymous. Really quickly, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to the point that you brought up earlier that OpenAI clawed back on its original policy around NDAs, but we're still seeing people worried about retaliation, worried about speaking up.
Mhm.
I think that says something about, of course, you're working at like the company, the belle of the ball right now, and so there is this little that there is this culture of fear, regardless of speaking up as any normal person would be. But I mean, I would love to see and be very curious to see the arguments from people who did sign on with their name and didn't, and kind of the differences in what they're weighing. Is it as simple as if you work there, you're still scared to speak up? Not sure, but the internal sentiment is definitely interesting.
Yeah, I highly recommend people check the letter out. We have posted it to our website, marketplacetech.org. Well, on to our next story. Facebook turned 20 this year. Its parent company, Meta, is looking at how to grow over the next 20 years. And key to this plan is to, quote, build the next generation of social media for young adults. What's the plan, Natasha?
Oh my gosh, it's AI, AI, AI. Unsurprisingly, Facebook is trying to transition its platform and into being something that's really enabled by AI, which they think, to put it into more impactful terms, will help them with their reels and help them with their feed and rank kind of recommendations a lot better. And of course, they're targeting young adults, which is interesting because we know that Meta and Facebook have had challenges with teens. Like around 7 months ago, a group of states sued Meta for allegations about hooking young users with features. And so we are seeing them graduate from that branding a little bit and being focused on capturing young adults with better algorithms.
Yeah, and it sounds like part of the plan here is to make Facebook look more like Instagram with more discovery options, offerings, better offerings in Facebook Marketplace, dating, groups, and events. Do you think this can work? Facebook has really dropped off in terms of usage by teens over the last decade. Axios writes that it's got a, quote, reputation as an app overrun by boomers sharing outdated memes and misinformation. What are the odds Facebook can make a comeback among those younger users?
I think that pressure is good and pressure is needed in order to make actual changes. And so I think the kind of answer to your question is regardless, it kind of needs to. I mean, let's not forget it's an election year. The young adult vote is really important for candidates. And so, I won't be surprised if we see a level of pressure, and the timing of focusing more on trying to get engagement up among young users be related. Obviously, that's speculation in a way, but I just feel like it's at a point now where if usage is dropping off and they're trying to bring young people back, they're going to look at the product that works right now. And the part that works right now for that base of people is Instagram. And just anecdotally, I'm hearing definitely with the, TikTok regulation and worries about privacy, I'm definitely hearing anecdotally that people are turning back to Instagram. I've actually been using Reels a lot more recently,
Mhm.
and I wouldn't be surprised if we see, them double down on different parts of the company that look more like the part that's working.
Are you still on Facebook proper yourself? I am barely on there because anytime I do go on there 4 hours later, I forget why I logged on in the first place. The
No,
force is strong.
it's exclusively Facebook Marketplace, which actually, Facebook actually, I think they know because in their announcement that they are redoing rethinking a little bit of Facebook, they do say that young adults need better recommendations on Marketplace, and it's a way for people to transition into adulthood. And they use Marketplace. So yeah, anyways, very savvy Marketplace user. That is the biggest reason that I want the Facebook app on my phone. But honestly, I think I'm logged in on some desktop somewhere, and so I
Mhm.
only go there, and I don't have any other login.
That's how I do it too. Can't have it on the phone. All right. Thanks, Natasha. Well, the Wall Street Journal reports that E-Trade is considering kicking Roaring Kitty off the trading platform. The amateur investor known in real life as Keith Gill helped fuel meme stock mania in 2021. Who can forget that? Let's start with a blast from the past on this one. Here he was on Christmas 2020.
Cheers. Happy Friday. Happy holidays. I hope everyone's having a great week. Surprise. GameStop's up about 5x from when I uploaded those videos over the summer. So that's great to see. Just to clear up some potential misconceptions, this was a true YOLO for me.
In case you missed it, the meme stock craze is back as of last month. GameStop once again taking center stage here. His narrative is, and you heard it there, is that he's just a guy who loves GameStop. Walk us through why E-Trade is thinking of booting him from the platform now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I don't know if I've ever seen him speak. It's mostly been
Weird, right?
online, and it's great. And I see why there's been a documentary about him and many more in the works. No, to answer your question, I think anytime someone stands to make a ton of money in a creative way, regulators, the red light is going off with regulators, right? Like and I'm sure E-Trade and its owner, let's not forget, very institutional, its owner Morgan Stanley, them being concerned is not a surprise to me, because there is almost like this gamified, there definitely is this gamified aspect to what he's doing. I think influencer based trading has always been hard and almost like a questionable part of the market. So the real question will be if the SEC actually has action on it, or if it's just, Keith Gill doing something that appears like it, but it's going to be hard to really, get him on a certain, manipulation tactic.
Yeah, and the SEC is in fact reviewing trading on these GameStop call options, specifically around the time of Gill's social media posts, according to the Wall Street Journal. It's got to be hard, to tell the difference between a stock that has real momentum, or Momo, as we like to call it, and where does it then seep into manipulation? He has 1 million followers on X, formerly known as Twitter, and the Wall Street Journal talked to someone at StockTwits who said visits to the GameStop page are up 20-fold. It's got to be difficult to tell the difference. So the SEC has their work cut out for them here.
Totally. I think, it's like I said, influencer-based trading is something that people are new at, especially regulators. And so I'm not surprised to see more examples of it. I actually, when researching, I found this. So these charges that happened in 2022, the SEC charged 8 influencers in a $100 million securities fraud scheme where they used, and this will sound familiar, social media platforms, Twitter, Discord, to manipulate exchange traded stocks. And part of the charges kind of just was the SEC being frustrated that these people promoted them as successful traders. They used their hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter and Discord to kind of explain and encourage their following to buy those stocks. And then, when those prices were either rising, the individuals would sell their trades. And so I think we're going to see more of this. I think this is also making a huge statement. And so a regulator probe will always kind of get attention. And then Keith Gill, I think, represents a lot more than Keith Gill.
Yeah, and we also we'll mention a couple years ago, the Massachusetts Secretary of State, which is the top securities regulator there, probing Gill's 2021 activities, but they closed the matter after a settlement with his former employer, MassMutual, for failing to properly supervise his activities. That's according to Reuters. Natasha, thank you so much for your take on all of this. Great to see you.
Yeah, great to be here as always.
That was Natasha Mascarenas of The Information. Thanks to all of you for watching Marketplace Tech Bytes Week in Review. Make sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. We are at Marketplace APM. Rosie Hughes produced this episode, and I'm Lily Jamali. This is APM.